Have you ever struggled with making more money, struggled with your income, struggled with building your personal wealth? On today's video, I'm going to help you solve that problem with the 8 simple steps to building wealth and becoming financially free. My name is Jamil Frazier. I'm a personal finance and business coach. For the last decade, I've built an 8-figure coaching business that's done over 300 million in revenue, and I've scaled my own personal net worth into the multi-millions. And now I make these videos to really help you level up in your personal finances and in your business. So let's talk about it. Step number 1 for building your own personal wealth is what we call pay yourself first. A lot of times this is something that we don't do. In fact, as soon as you get paid, usually we're paying other people right away. We're paying our mortgages, we're paying our rent, we're paying our utilities, we're paying for the cable, the internet. We're also paying in forms of taxes and paying the government and the state that you live in. So we get used to paying all of these things. And then by the time there's anything that's left over, there's nothing to actually use to build wealth. I want you to flip that around. So now instead of when you get paid, you start paying all these other people first, I actually want you to pay yourself first. So 10% of your paycheck, have that automatically go to a high yield savings account. Another 10% of your paycheck, have that go to an investing account. And the last 10% of your paycheck, I just simply want you to give that away or to tithe that to your church or your place of worship. So now that we've already used up 30% of that paycheck, now you have 70% of your income to live off of. That's what we recommend that you now start to pay your bills with. So now that you've paid yourself first, we can now start to scale your wealth. And now you have something that's actually going to start the process of bringing in what I call echo income. Step number 2. Step number 2 is simply live below your means. A lot of times we get so used to buying things that we want, not just buying things that we need. Write that down. Oftentimes we will buy things that we want over and over and over again, and now it just becomes a behavior. There's something called the Pareto principle. It's also called the 80-20 rule. And so what it says is that for anything that you have, only about 20% do you actually use, while 80% you don't use that much. So if you go into your closet right now and you take a look at all the clothes that's in your closet, only about 20% of those clothes do you wear over and over and over again, while the other 80% basically just kind of sit there. So what does this tell you? This tells you we spend money on a lot of things that we tend to want but don't necessarily need. Now what we want to do is start to keep more of that money so that you can build more wealth. Write this down as a rule of thumb. Oftentimes it's not about how much money you actually make. I used to think that that was the big sort of goal that I wanted. How can I make 6 figures? How can I extend my income? How can I extend my wealth? Now that is a goal, but I'm gonna tell you a secret. Oftentimes it's about how much money you're keeping. See, when the people made more, they usually spent more. This is why you want to get lean in your spending. Step number 3 is to make your money work for you. So let's talk about that. A lot of people are asking, well, what should I invest in? Well, first and foremost, you want to invest in yourself. One thing that I learned early on was the more knowledge that you have, the more education that you have, the more you watch these types of videos, the more that you read, the more seminars that you go to, the more masterminds that you join. These are all things that's going to pay what we call a dividend. You are going to get better, you're going to get bigger, and as you do that, you're going to grow the ability to actually earn more. So you want to invest in yourself. When I started my wealth building journey, some of the things that I did to make my money work for me was first started to invest in low cost index funds, started to invest in a 401k, started to invest in a Roth IRA. Then we started to invest in real estate. Then we started to invest in structured notes. And then I decided I wanted to start lending money. Then we became an accredited investors, and then we became angel investors, and now we play in private equity. So you got a lot of different options and opportunities to make your money work for you. But fact of the matter is, you usually do not build wealth by working for money. You build wealth by finding vehicles where that money can work hard for you and compound over time. Number 4 is do not lose money. One of the things that you can do to absolutely hamper your ability to build wealth for yourself is to lose the money that you have. Here's a rule of thumb. Guard your treasure from loss as best as you can. Warren Buffett is the greatest investor that we've seen, and he says the number one rule for building wealth is don't lose money. And then he says the number two rule for building wealth is refer to rule number one. So here's 3 key points to making sure you don't lose your money. Point number 1, only invest where your principal can be safe. Point number 2 is make sure that you can get that principal back, that investment back, if you really need it. And point number 3 is only invest where you can get a fair return on your money. So what's a fair return? You're going to have to sort of decide that for yourself. For my family and I, a fair return is 8%, 9%, 10%. I've gotten 20%, I've gotten 100%, I've gotten 500%. But really, I would say anything around 8% or more. Number 5, pay off your debt. One of the things that holds people back from building the wealth is we accumulate too much debt, whether that's credit card debt, whether that's high interest debt. Instead of being ahead of the curve, we find ourselves behind the curve because we bit off more than we can chew. Here's a really easy formula to start paying off debt. You remember back in step number 1 when you're paying yourself first, 10% to savings, 10% to investing, 10% to giving away or tithing. Well, the 10% that you have put away for investing, before you start to have that money work for you, then use that money to start paying off your debt. Step number 6 is own your own home. In my best-selling book, The Richest Man in Direct Sales, I talked about why it was important for us to own our own home. I think the first reason is it gave us a peace of mind. Starting to grow a young family, my wife wanted a place to lay her head, and I knew that eventually I wanted to get into real estate investing, and I knew I wanted to do all that. But I think first thing was we had a place to call our own. And so for me, it was something that was more of a dream as I was a little boy to actually having a place that was mine. Next is typically the bigger the home, the bigger you're going to have to become. What does that mean? That means that you're going to have to grow as a human being. You're going to have to develop more. You're going to have to learn more skills. You're going to have more an abundance mindset, and probably you're going to have to get into more action so that you actually have more income. Step number 7, protect your future. There's no point of doing all of these amazing things right now in terms of building your wealth, scaling your business, helping more people, taking care of your family, if you are not protecting it. You know, there's no point of building a mansion on quicksand. So the protection component is probably one of the most important components. So oftentimes you want to have retirement plans put in place. Make sure to get your insurances, especially life insurance. Build something that I've called the death playbook. This is something that was taught to me early on, but basically a mentor said, hey Jamil, if something happens to you, does your family, does your wife have a step-by-step playbook on how to actually handle all of the business, the finances? Does she know what to do? And so I built a playbook, basically a step-by-step document that says, if I should die, these are the things to do. Call this person, call this attorney. Here's how you get the life insurance. Here are the passwords to these different accounts. Now, I want to be able to protect my family, whether I'm dead or alive. Number 8, invest in yourself. Never stop learning. How do you build your wealth? How do you scale your income? How do you accumulate more assets? It's all about you. Think about yourself. Every phase in life, the goal is to get bigger and bigger, and how you do that, it's all about who you become. Write that down. And so you never want to stop learning. The problem isn't that most people don't want much. It's that most people don't want to become much. Write that down. And that's where I was about 12 years ago. I wanted a lot. I wasn't focused on becoming a lot. Here's some key points to investing in yourself. Read books. I recommend reading 1 new book every single month. Personal development podcast at least once a day. Meditate or pray. Set a goal to learn a new language. See if you can learn a new language once every couple years. So attend marriage seminars, business seminars, masterminds. Do all of these things to really invest in yourself. I hope this video has brought you a tremendous amount of value. If so, please go on and share it with a friend, subscribe to the channel, and go on and press that thumbs up button, and we'll see you on the next one.